Good evening, Team Gerwell. You are flipping in fifth with me, Mrs. G. Today we have two lessons that we're going to focus on because both of them are relatively easy. It's topic 4, lessons 1 and 2. That means we have two learning targets as well. Our first one is, I will be able to use mental math strategies to divide by multiples of 10. And our second one is, I will be able to estimate quotients by using rounding and compatible numbers. Be sure to pause the video so you can make sure to get all of the learning targets written down in your notes. Today's vocabulary, our first word is dividend. That is the number that's being divided. In this sample problem, the dividend would be 140. Our next word is divisor. That's the number by which the dividend is being divided. In our second example, the divisor would be 2. And our third word is quotient. That is the answer to a division problem. So our first lesson is going to tell us how to use mental math to divide. So here we have a problem, 72,000 divided by 9. So in order to use mental math, we're going to think of 72 divided by 9 first. What is 72 divided by 9? If you said 8, good job, because it is. 72 divided by 9 is 8. So then we're going to count how many zeros we have left in our problem. 1, 2, 3. So we're going to bring 3 zeros after the 8. Don't forget to add the comma, and then we have our answer. 72,000 divided by 9 is 8,000. Let's try one together. Here is 5,600 divided by 8. So the first thing we need to know is, what is 56 divided by 8? Well, we know that's 7. Then we need to count how many zeros. There's 2. So bring in 2 zeros, and we know 5,600 divided by 8 equals 700. So now try this one on your own. 180,000 divided by 6. Go ahead and pause your video and write your answer in your notebook, and then come back for the answer. Welcome back. So we have 180,000 divided by 6. So 18 divided by 6 is 3. Then how many zeros do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll write 4 zeros in after the 3, and don't forget your comma. So we know 180,000 divided by 6 is 30,000. Did you get that right? Great job if you did. If maybe you made a mistake, I suggest you go back and rewatch this part of the video until you can understand it a little bit better. So now we're going to go on to estimating quotients by rounding. Here we have a problem, 258 divided by 6. Remember, when you are estimating quotients by rounding, you can round to the nearest 10 or 100. It really doesn't matter. In this case, we're going to round 258 to 300 because we're looking at the 6. If we're thinking about multiples of 6, we know that a multiple of 6 is 30, and that's close to 258. So we're going to make that 300. So 30 divided by 6 is 5, and then how many zeros do we have left over? Well, if you said 2, you wouldn't be right, because remember our initial problem was 30 divided by 6. So really there's only 1 zero left. So we'll bring that 0 down, and then we know our good estimate here is 50. Is 50 an overestimate or an underestimate? Do you remember this from when we talked about estimating multiplication by rounding? Well, in this case, our original number, 258, was rounded up to 300. So this 50 would be an overestimate because we rounded up. Here's another problem, 257 divided by 5. Remember, you can round to the nearest 10 or the nearest 100, but we're going to look at that 5 and think about multiples of 5. Well, obviously, 25 is a multiple of 5, so we're going to change 257 to 250. 25 divided by 5 is 5, and then we have that 1 0 to bring down. So a good estimate here is also 50. Is 50 here an overestimate or an underestimate? Well, we started out with 257, and then we rounded down to 250. So in this case, 50 would be an underestimate. Now we're going to talk about estimating quotients using those compatible numbers. Here we have 258 divided by 6. We're going to change that to 240 divided by 6 because we are looking at multiples of 6, and we know that 24 is a multiple of 6. So 24 divided by 6 is 4. And how many zeros do we have? Just 1. So we're going to bring that down. So our estimate using compatible numbers is 40. Is that an overestimate or an underestimate? Well, we started off with 258, and then our compatible number was 240, which is smaller. So we're going to say here that this is an underestimate. Here's another one. 310 divided by 8. What compatible number would you change 310 to if you're thinking about multiples of 8? Well, 8, 16, 24. What would you do here? Well, we know that 32 is a multiple of 8. 32 divided by 8 is 4. How many zeros are left? Just 1. So our estimate here using compatible numbers would be 40. Is 40 an overestimate or an underestimate? We started off with 310. Our compatible number is higher at 320. So is that an overestimate or an underestimate? If you chose overestimate, give yourself a big pat on the back. Yes, it is. It is an overestimate. So now here are your practice problems tonight. The first 3 I'd like you to round to estimate the following quotients, and then the last 2 I want you to use compatible numbers. Go ahead and pause the video, write the answers in your notebook, show your work. If you are unsure of how to do it, go ahead and rewind the video and then come back and wait for the answers. Okay, here are the answers in 3, 2, 1. In problem number 1, if we're rounding to estimate, we would change the 312 to 300. So 300 divided by 5 is 60. Problem number 2, we would round 792 to 800. So 800 divided by 4 equals 200. Number 3, we have 834. We would round that to 800 as well. So 800 divided by 2 is 400. Number 4 and 5, we're using compatible numbers to estimate the quotients. So 263 divided by 3, we're looking at multiples of 3 there. So we're going to change 263 to 270 divided by 3 equals 90. In problem number 5, 317 divided by 7, well, we know that 35 is a multiple of 7. That's relatively close to 30, or relatively close to 31. So we would change that to 350 divided by 7 equals 50. So make sure you checked your work and you wrote how many you got correct. Be sure to fill out that self-reflection and be sure to fill in any questions that you still have. If you get this 100%, maybe fill in a question you think a friend might have. If not, if you have to go back and rewatch the video and you still have questions, it's important that you write them down here so I can help you tomorrow when we tackle this in class. Have a great night, everybody.